Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to plug in my electric helicopter. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in the helicopter. This is where I'm plugging the big battery into the speed control. And what happens is that the radio and speed control will boot up and go through an automatic process. Now what we heard there beeping was the speed control telling me it's ready. Now I need to be very careful here because I'm in an enclosed shop. We're near a cameraman. I don't want to fire the helicopter up, so I'm going to be very careful here. But we're going to go ahead and go through the pre-check list. Now if you have a flybarless helicopter, as you start the helicopter, you need to watch to make sure that your swash plate does its little bounce routine. This lets you know that the gyro that runs the flybarless part of the helicopter is ready to go. If the swash plate doesn't do its little startup bounce, it's not ready to be flown. Once again, this can be a dangerous situation where you think the helicopter is ready to go, you're running the controls, but you have no control over part of the helicopter. You only have control over the engine, which allowed you to fly away, and you have no chance of actually landing it safely. So we heard the beeps on the speed control. We got the throttle. I'm going to go ahead and switch the throttle hold on. Now the throttle hold on an electric helicopter shuts off the engine entirely. You still have control of the aircraft, but it kills the engine. On a gas or nitro helicopter, it brings the engine back to idle. So the engine's not providing power, but it's still idling along. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my idle hold switch. I'm going to go ahead and check my controls. So left and right as I look, and I can go up and down. So we're getting all set. Servos are looking good, forward and back, left and right. And don't forget your tail rotor servo, because that's important too. I go left and right, I get tail rotor control. Now once again, before we fly this helicopter, I want to make sure we change those tail rotor blades. The other thing you want to do on your first pre-flight of the day is check to make sure the gyro is working correctly. So if I pick up the helicopter and I move it this way, I can actually see the tail rotor blades changing. The gyro is trying to compensate for the lateral movement of the helicopter. And so you want to make sure that's going the right way. Now initially when you built the helicopter and you went through the setup of the helicopter, you set the gyro up. But you still want to check to make sure that it's functional and operating in the correct direction. If you have a flybarless helicopter, you're going to need to go through the manufacturer recommended process for checking that. But typically you'll grab the helicopter, you'll move it side to side and forward to backward, and it will adjust all the servos on the swash plate automatically, compensating for that movement. If you don't see that movement, then you have a problem. As we're going through our process here, we're going to make sure our servos are not glitching. It's where they twitch, like a nervous twitch. If you fed your 15-year-old daughter too much caffeine and she's twitching and bouncing around the house, that would be bad in a servo. You don't want it to twitch in flight unless you're the one giving it the control. You don't want to have any little nervous ticks. A twitching servo is generally indicated that the servo has been worn out or is damaged and needs to be replaced. Don't fly the helicopter if you see that. Now you can probably hear a little high-pitched beeping and whining here. This is the standard sound a digital servo makes. If you have an analog servo, typically it won't make any noise at all, and it shouldn't. But digital servos will make a little buzzing noise almost continuously. And when you're moving them, they make a different noise. But when they're sitting there idle, they almost have this buzz sound that just runs continuously. There's nothing wrong with that. If you hear that on an analog servo, you might want to investigate. So once again now, I'm going to go ahead and make sure all my switches are forward, including the throttle hold. So the helicopter is armed. If I give it the gas in my left hand, it's going to start to turn, which would be dangerous here in my workshop. But I think we're about ready to go. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and put on my canopy. I'm going to go ahead and get it out on the grass. And we're going to go and start the aircraft by rolling the throttle forward. And on this aircraft, we roll the power or throttle forward to the half position setting. And once again, this depends upon the configuration of your aircraft. Some training helicopters half stick, the thing's flying off into the sky. This one here, it's just coming up to power in a ready position and it's not ready to fly. But as the helicopter starts, I'm going to keep my hands on the controls. I'm going to be looking at the aircraft to make sure that it's ready to go. As the helicopter spins up, I don't want to be talking to people behind me. And it's really common for your buddies or your friends to be behind you talking to you, hey, how is the helicopter? How big is the helicopter? How much does it weigh? How fast does it go? All that kind of stuff. And you're going to want to answer because, hey, your helicopter is cool. But if the helicopter is spinning up and running and you're not paying attention to it, the helicopter is likely to fly off or hit you or hit someone else, and you didn't even see it happen. One of the things that I will typically do as the helicopter is spinning up, I'll do a quick check of the aircraft or other pilots who are flying at the same time. Now, as you were walking up the flight line to fly, you should have generally been paying attention, and it's always a great idea to have your instructor right next to you, or if you're a more accomplished pilot, you're going to have a spotter next to you. This is a person who's not going to watch your helicopter, they're going to watch other people. And so if the other people they're coming by and they might hit your aircraft or they might hit you, their spotter is there to protect you and to tell you what's going on. Frequently, spotters will sit and talk to you. They won't watch other things, they'll watch your helicopter. That's of no use. They need to watch other airplanes or other people and to help protect you. So if they have to move you or move you back, or they say, hey, there's a plane coming by, climb up higher, watch out, they can help you look out for danger. So now as the engine spins up, we're at flight power. I can give it a little more power, lift off. Once again, my spotter is looking for any other problems that are out there. And it's off for a fun and exciting day flying our RC helicopter. Just a side note, after you come back and land your RC helicopter, the first thing you want to do after the rotors stop turning is unplug your battery and speed control. You don't want to walk back to the pits or the parking area with your motor still connected to the battery, because if you inadvertently bounce the radio and hit the switch, your helicopter could start spinning up in the pits. This would cause a lot of excitement and people would get very panicky and disgruntled at you. So recommend that you don't scare everyone in the pits. Unplug your helicopter before you walk back.